I spent the last 6 hours together with 2,000 of you legends watching Gary Gensler testify in front of Congress. He was a witness and he was asked a ton of very juicy questions. But I know you're a busy man or a busy woman and you don't want to watch 6 hours of this interview. So what I've decided to do is break it down for you every single time that they caught Gary Gensler off guard, every single time that they asked about crypto. I got for you in this video. The first 3 clips that I'm showing you guys are extremely important. Then at the end, I'll leave 2 bonus clips that you can watch if you want to watch a little bit more of Gary Gensler speak. Still about FTX, about crypto, and it's interesting, but these first 3, So guys, if you've not done it yet, make sure you press that like button as it took a lot of time to get this out there. And for everybody that tuned in yesterday, you guys are awesome. Let's do more of these. So make sure, guys, that you put that notification bell on because we're going to do a live stream every single time something important like this happens or whenever that's the best way for me to get information out to you guys. As at the end of the day, I'm here for you. And Gary Gensler's not. Anyway, watch this video. But before I do show you that, make sure that if you're getting into crypto trading or you're looking for a place to buy crypto, that you take a look at a couple of the links down below. Right now, I've actually started to use OKX a little bit more because of some of the fear around Binance and, well, a lot of my YouTuber friends are telling me it's pretty nice. A lot of these guys trade every single hour of the day in front of their camera, so I'm thinking if they appreciate another platform a lot, I gotta at least give it a try. So I'll leave a couple links for that down below and let's dive right in.
Chair Gensler, I have a lot of questions in a limited amount of time, so if you could keep your answers to either a yes or a no, that will allow us to get through as many as possible, sir. From your perspective, is it more difficult now for the digital asset industry to access financial products and services in the United States than it was, say, 2 years ago?
Sir, I'm not running one of those businesses. If they came into compliance, I think
Reclaiming my time. The answer, sir, is yes. Do you think you and the SEC have had a role to play in that?
I think we have a role to protect the American investor and the capital markets. And
Reclaiming my time, sir. You have played an obvious role in that. During your tenure at the SEC, how many rules has the SEC finalized that actually accommodate the existing regulatory framework and are specifically to the digital asset industry so the crypto market can come into compliance?
It's their rule books that are on the books for years, so we have not finalized any new rule specifically with regard to crypto. We've proposed some things in best execution. We've also...
Sir, reclaiming my time, the answer is 0. And how many enforcement actions has the SEC levied against digital asset companies during your tenure, sir?
I think it's probably 40 or 50.
The answer, sir, is about 55. My understanding is that the biggest crypto failure in history is probably FTX at $9 billion. Were you the chairman of the SEC when FTX collapsed?
Yes.
And how many times did you meet with FTX prior to their collapse?
I think my public record shows 2.
You met it with FTX at least twice. And arguably, the second biggest crypto failure in history was Terra Luna. Who was the chairman of the SEC when Terra Luna collapsed, sir?
We had brought...
You were, sir. Reclaiming my time, you were. There are 5 members on the commission. Do you believe your speeches and interviews are to serve as the official position of the SEC?
I can only speak for myself when I'm speaking.
Again, sir, in a statement on the SEC website, you are quoted saying, the Kraken staking as a service enforcement action should make clear to the marketplace that staking as a service providers must register. But again, you haven't provided any rules for how that can be done. I must remind you, your public statements are not regulations. It's not responsible to expect the American people to assume your statements are a substitute for rules. Do you agree with this statement regarding the digital asset industry? The SEC needs additional congressional authorities to prevent transactions, products, and platforms from falling between the regulatory cracks.
I think that it's a largely non-compliant field. And
sir, again, I asked you to comply with my questions, and I'm asking you if you agree with that quote. And I'm going to tell you, I'm quoting you from an August 3rd, 2021 article where you, and I believe you told Congressman Hill earlier that you need congressional authority to regulate stablecoins, and stablecoins happen to be a significant percentage of the crypto market. So the question is, when were you telling the truth? To Mr. Hill or to me? You've got to start answering these questions in a more transparent manner, sir. Does it concern you, by the way, that your approach to the digital asset industry is actually driving this industry out of the United States?
We're trying to drive it to compliance, and if they're not complying with the laws, then they shouldn't be offering their products.
Reclaiming my time. Madam Chair, I would like to enter into the record this Wall Street Journal article from April 14th, 2023, detailing China's ploy to open its banking system to crypto firms in an effort to seize an opportunity created by our hostile regulatory environment, which, Mr. Chair, you're a big part of.
Without objection.
Chair Gensler, FTX was domiciled abroad and so is Binance, yet American consumers still had access to both. You can't really think that pushing this industry abroad is going to protect American consumers when it hasn't several times in the past on your watch. You say the crypto market is rife with non-compliance. However, existing SEC rules make no sense for blockchain-based companies, and following them would actually kill these businesses. Your regulatory style lacks flexibility and nuance, and as a result, you've been an incompetent cop on the beat, doing nothing to protect everyday Americans and pushing American firms into the hands of the CCP. Your intention to work against SEC mission and put American investors in harm's way has been made very apparent, sir. It's been a year and a half since you've appeared before this committee. You need to answer to Congress about the issues that you've had with the SEC staff union, the work environment you've cultivated at the SEC that's led to hemorrhaging of senior staff, the intellectual inconsistency of your regulatory treatment towards Bitcoin spot ETFs, and your politicization of capital formation opportunities through your treatment of certain SPACs. And that's just to name a few. Thank you. I yield.
Gentleman, the chair now recognizes the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Davidson, for 5 minutes.
Chairman Gensler, in advance of today's hearing, did you coordinate acceptable responses with Senator Elizabeth Warren?
No, I'm speaking on my own behalf.
Did you coordinate with Democratic staff? And I ask because it happened before, and I want to be clear whether you operate of your own accord or whether there's some sort of coordinated approach to the damage that you're inflicting on America's capital markets.
I'm here as sitting in my role as chair of the agency, but I speak and I get remarkable support by SEC staff.
All right, well, I have a few quick questions where a yes or no answer will suffice. Chairman Gensler, part of the SEC's mission is to protect investors. Does the SEC review pre-IPO documents?
I think you said pre-IPO documents. You're supposed to, if you're going to take a company public, the staff of the SEC does review those to see that they're in compliance.
Correct. Is Coinbase a publicly traded company?
I'm sorry?
Is Coinbase publicly traded?
Yes.
All right, so the SEC allowed pension funds and retail investors to invest in a company, Coinbase, that you apparently, from prior remarks, believe was engaging in illegal activity. All of their activities were laid out in their public filings in the S-1 prior to the IPO. You did say that you believe Coinbase is selling unregistered securities, correct?
Again, I'm not going to speak to anyone.
No, but you said that they're selling unregistered securities. This is your public comments.
I think, with all respect, I look forward to you finding that because I'm trying to be very careful. I'm not speaking
we'll help
about
refresh
any
your
one
memory.
company.
In the Kim Kardashian settlement, the SEC stated that Ethereum Max is a security. She reached a settlement for promoting an unregistered security. The unregistered security is Ethereum Max. Have you charged the issuers of Ethereum Max for offering an unregistered security?
We reached a settlement with a celebrity, Ms. Kardashian.
Yeah, but not, she just promoted it. She doesn't operate Ethereum Max. Have you said that Ethereum Max is an unregistered security to the people that offer it?
We did in that settlement, yes, sir.
Okay, it's still trading. What about Ethereum? Is Ethereum now a security?
We had this
I heard your
discussion.
exchange. They've been in place since 2015. You say in your statements that there's clarity in the market and the rules are clear. Just come on in. You can't even answer the question. Do you say XRP is a security?
Well, we're in court and active discussions and litigation on that matter.
You're in litigation because you do say it's a security. As you know, let's move on a little bit. As you know, qualified custodian banks would effectively be unable to provide crypto asset-related custody as a result of punitive capital impact under accounting provisions in Staff Accounting Bulletin 121. Do you agree that the bulletin should be amended?
I think that the staff addressed an accounting issue and appropriately saw that crypto assets held in custody today are not segregated or not bankruptcy remote in bankruptcy and should be appropriately put on public company financials.
I wish I had time to go into the ESG rule and everything else, but Chairman Gensler, your record of failures to protect investors and abuses of power make it clear that we need to restructure the Securities and Exchange Commission. The failures are many, but let me cite some of the abuses. You average more than 2 rules proposals a month. You provide inappropriately short comment periods. You have unworkable and unlawful ESG disclosure mandates on the market. You have essentially a Hotel California rule for crypto where you can check in anytime you like, but you can never leave. You have endless discovery with no resolution and no clarity for the captives in the market. You have unworkable proposals for overhauling equity market structure, a de facto ban on crypto through proposed custody rule. You have high staff turnover, unhappy people leaving your office, and unhappy companies and capital leaving our country. To correct a long series of abuses, I'm introducing legislation that removes the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission and replaces the role with an executive director that reports to the board where all authority would reside. Former chairs of the SEC will be ineligible under my proposed bill. And this isn't just my take. It resonates across the political spectrum. The American people want democratic access to capital, retail investor participation. You can't just exclude retail investors from markets and claim it's for their own good. Our markets need to function and flourish, and I yield back.
For 5 minutes. Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Gensler. Last but not least, why don't we just get to it? The Commission has been extremely active on the rulemaking front during your tenure at the agency's helm. Dozens of rules proposed and issued, many overlapping in scope and topic. Many of the new rule proposals also relate to security-based swap markets and may duplicate the requirements only recently implemented. Have you considered the impacts of proposing new and additional regulatory burdens on this market when the full effects of Title VII rules are still unknown? And secondarily, just as important, have you done a fulsome analysis on the impact of the rules market, specifically as they relate to market liquidity?
With regard to the securities-based swap market, I think it's 3 different rule proposals, and each of them we have done full economic analyses, which is put out to the public comment, and that's related to the swap execution facilities in the swaps markets, relates to large trader reporting as a separate rule proposal, and thirdly, we made a proposal around anti-manipulation in the markets. A number of these are actually required by Congress, the swap execution facilities, for sure.
Well, while we're on the position of rules, let me answer this question. It's actually a follow-up from my colleague, Mr. Norman. Your climate disclosure rule, 500 pages, you say that that's the way we can have uniformity in disclosure, but what provision are you using to create authority for a large climate disclosure when Congress never gave you one?
Congress did give us authority around disclosures in both of our first acts, 1933 Act and 1934 Act.
Chairman Gensler, can you honestly sit there and tell me that in 1933 and 1934, Congress actually anticipated climate disclosure rules?
They didn't anticipate many things. It was 90 years ago, but what they did anticipate is that companies needed to be truthful in their disclosures and
truthful in their disclosures around their financial practices, around assets, liabilities, earnings per share, return on equity, and I can go on and on and on. But potential climate risks, Congress never anticipated that, never.
No, it's broader than that, sir, because it's also companies today are already making significant disclosures about climate risk.
But if they do that of their own volition, that doesn't give you the authority to make everybody do it. Just because some are doing it doesn't mean you have to make sure everybody does it.
We, with all respect,
Chairman
whatever-
Gensler, do you disclose how many blue shirts you own? Should we be able to pass a law that makes everybody disclose how many blue shirts they own?
companies that are in the business of raising money from the public are supposed to
Chairman
make
Gensler, every publicly traded
disclosures.
company raises money. Every one of them does it. That's why they're in the public markets.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you get to arbitrarily create some rule out of thin air that we never granted you to then make them regulate on climate emissions. We never did that.
They are already making disclosures, and it's bringing.
Yeah, but you don't have the
consistency
authority to
in
make it
terms of
uniform because we never gave you the authority. You are making a determination and a definition without congressional authority. Yes or no?
We do have authority, sir.
You're making a determination and a definition without congressional authority.
The authority.
Yes or no?
It's the same authorities that
Yes
we
or no?
used to, with all respect, sir, it's the same authorities that we used when we said you had to disclose material risk, where you have to disclose management discussion and analysis.
But material risk and management discussion goes to the actual operations of the business itself. What you're talking about is something dealing with the outside aspects associated with the business. I'm gonna reclaim my time and move on to something else. You said earlier in another line of questioning that the players in the digital asset space don't have a choice, that they have to comply with the rules. But once again, Congress has never given you a framework for regulating digital assets. Where are you pulling that one from?
With all respect, sir, we disagree on this.
Oh, I can see we disagree a lot, Chairman, because we're not giving you authority, you're just taking it. I think that's part of the issue right now.
With all respect, Congress painted with a broad brush when they set up the SEC, and I quote Thurgood Marshall, which is one of the greatest.
Congress
justices.
painted with a broad brush in 1933 and 1934, not in 2023. We've not touched that. It's a new industry. One last quick question, because I'm concerned about your agency. You have some of the highest turnover amongst the agencies. Do you think you have the manpower to actually regulate digital assets, considering all the other rulemaking you're engaged
We
in?
actually have 6 to 7% turnover, which is consistent with the other federal financial
I would disagree.
regulations.
OPM would say otherwise, Chairman Gensler. Hey, real quick, last question. I think it might have came up. You were Hillary Clinton's CFO in the campaign, right?
It's part of my history.
Were you? Yes or no?
In 2016.
Did you facilitate the payment for the Steele dossier since you were CFO of the Hillary Clinton campaign?
Sir,
Yes or no?
sir,
Yes or no?
that was not.
You're under oath, Chairman Gensler. Yes or
I
no?
know. I was not something I was aware of.
I yield back the rest of my time. Thank you, Chairman.
Gentleman's time is
The gentleman from New York, Mr. Torres, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Gensler, there are areas on which we do see eye to eye, like the need to disclose climate change risk or the need to understand the immense implications of the unfolding AI revolution. But I'm going to offer, however, observations about 3 areas about which I've heard concern and then have you respond as you see fit. First, on the subject of crypto. The lesson learned from the collapse of FTX is that companies that bear the characteristics of FTX, offshore, deregulated, over-leveraged companies, have the greatest risk of losing customer funds. In a world of scarce enforcement resources, one would think that the SEC would prioritize enforcement actions against high-risk companies that resemble FTX, offshore, deregulated, over-leveraged companies. Instead, it appears the SEC has done the opposite. Instead of targeting an offshore, deregulated exchange like Binance, you've chosen to target an onshore, regulated exchange like Coinbase. Instead of targeting an offshore, deregulated stablecoin issuer like Tether, you've chosen to target an onshore, regulated stablecoin issuer like Paxos. It seems like your enforcement priorities ignore the lessons learned from the FTX failure. Second, on the subject of equity market structure, if a broker sends a retail order to an exchange, the broker would be in compliance with your proposed rule. But if the broker sends the retail order flow to an off-exchange wholesaler, the broker would be out of compliance with your proposed rule, even if the wholesaler is offering a better price than the exchange. And therein lies what seems to be the perversity of the proposed rule. It strikes me as perverse to tell a broker that you cannot send retail order flow to the wholesaler who is offering a better price and therefore a better execution. On the third subject of private funds, both New York State and New York City retirement systems are heavily invested in private funds. The New York State Common Retirement Fund invested about $29.5 billion in PE, and over the course of 10 years saw an annualized return of 10.12%. The New York State Teachers Retirement System invested $14.7 billion, and over the same period saw 16.6% in annualized returns. The New York City Employees Retirement System invested $6.5 billion, and over the course of 10 years saw an annualized return of 15%. So when I see returns as high as 16.6%, which seem impressive, there's a question that comes to mind: does the SEC risk fixing what ain't broken? So those are 3 observations, and you're free to respond.
I thank you, and let me try to do them in kind. In terms of crypto, you're right that U.S. investors are accessing the crypto markets, both onshore companies and offshore. Our jurisdictional reach is to both, if they're U.S. investors that are participating in that.
But let's be clear, you have the authority to take enforcement action against offshore deregulated exchanges.
We do.
And stablecoin issuers.
It takes longer to build the investigative files. It takes longer, sometimes in cooperation with offshore enforcement authorities to pursue that. And it is, frankly, more challenging to actually get subpoenas complied with. And so it takes longer in time. In terms of your second area about the efficiency in the capital markets, one area is these individual investors and individual investors placing, as you described, these market orders. And what we did was put out a proposal and said, if that proposal is getting at least the middle of the market, at least mid-part or better, it's fine. But if these individual small dollar orders were not doing that, either they're sent to a regulated exchange or put it into competition. But we're going to get feedback on it. And it's one of the 4 rules we put out. It might be the one that I think we've gotten 5,000 plus comments on already.
Maybe I'm missing something, because you hold the exchange as the gold standard of competition, but if the wholesaler is offering price improvement relative to the exchange, like, I'm failing to see something.
So one of the things is...
Like, if the wholesaler were offering a worse price, then I would consider that a failure of competition, and I would see the reason for your rule. But if it's offering a better price, are we fixing what ain't broken?
Well, so we don't have a level playing field right now between the dark markets that are probably a third to a half of the market on any given day, and the...
But what you denounce as the dark markets are outperforming what you consider the gold standard.
Well...
So that's where I'm confused.
So I'm saying that the dark markets actually have different rules of the road. They don't have the same minimum increment.
I could speak to you for an hour, but
So we're trying to harmonize that. On your last...
Gentleman's time's expired.
Ether is one of the most popular digital assets and powers the Ethereum blockchain. Back in 2018, then SEC Corporation Finance Director Bill Hinman stated that he believed Ether was not a security. Last month, CFTC Chair Benham expressed his view that Ether is a commodity. The State Attorney General of New York asserted in a court filing last month that Ether is a security. Clearly, an asset cannot be both a commodity and a security. Do you agree?
Actually, all securities are commodity under the Commodity and Exchange Act. It's that we are excluded commodities. But I would agree that a security cannot be also an excluded commodity and an included commodity. I'm sorry, Chair, just to talk about the Commodity Exchange Act more precisely.
Okay, so do you recognize, how would you categorize Ether then?
Look, I think that the general sweep of what Congress did, not just in the 30s, but as amended...
I'm asking you, sitting in your chair now, to make an assessment under the laws as exist, is Ether a commodity or a security?
Without speaking to any one...
I know you've repeatedly said you're not going to speak to one, except you've spoken to one, Bitcoin. So I'm asking you to speak to a second one, the second largest market cap here.
And speaking to the tokens, there's 10 to 12,000. if there's a group of entrepreneurs in the
I'm asking
middle
about
that the
one.
public is anticipating a profit based on the...
I'm asking you a specific question, Chair Gensler. I said this in private. This should be no shock to you. I'm asking this question. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
And again, it depends on the facts and the law, and if there's a group of individuals...
I'm asking you about the
in
facts and the
middle.
law sitting in your seat and the judgment you are making.
And so, Mr. Chair, I think you would not want me to prejudge because I'm also...
But you have
aware-
prejudged on this. You've taken 50 enforcement actions. We're finding out as we go, as you file suit, as people get Wells notices on what is a security in your view, in your agency's view. I'm asking you a very simple question about the second largest digital asset. What is your view?
And my view is if there's a group of individuals in the middle that the public is
All
anticipating...
right, so let me just ask a second
on those
question then.
efforts.
Do you think it serves the market for an object to be viewed by the commodities regulator as a commodity and the securities regulator to be viewed as a security? Do you think that provides safety and soundness for the product? Do you think it provides consumer protection? Do you think it serves the value of innovation? I think no should be a very simple answer for you here.
I think...
That uncertainty is bad, is it not?
And I think that Congress has said that there's one agency, the Securities and Exchange Commission, under this committee...
And you won't answer my question, and you're the head of that agency. So give me a break. Come on.
I'm answering it in the generic because you would not want me to speak about any one set of facts and circumstance.
Okay, so, but you've already spoken. Have you said anything about Bitcoin?
My predecessors and the agency itself has spoken to them.
Okay,
Yes.
but you're not willing to do the same about Ether.
I think
Okay,
that-
so let me just step back. There's a lack of clarity here in the marketplace. Can you at least agree to that?
I think that the clarity is there. The law is clear
All
that
right.
if there's a group
So
of
let me
individuals you're relying
be
on.
explicit about this. The market doesn't see it. Your regulatory actions and the CFTC's regulatory actions say that there's a great deal of uncertainty here. It is the intention of this committee to fix that uncertainty and actually provide a sound legal basis for this. So let me get into your rulemaking process. So you proposed 53 rules in 2 years. Mary Jo White proposed 23. Jay Clayton proposed 26. At the same time, your agency has consistently provided less comment period than either of your predecessors. Just as one example, when the SEC made significant changes to the U.S. equity markets in 2005 for regulation NMS, the Commission broadly solicited public feedback, held numerous roundtables, issued white papers and concept releases. Fast forward to today, you've proposed 4 equity market structure proposals that would impact millions of retail investors, and you provided a mere 60 days of comments on 1,600 pages of regulations. So let me ask you this. Do shorter comment periods and less public interaction improve rulemaking?
We actually put out the equity market structure rules, had 105 days of comment from the time we voted it out through March 31st. But I think robust public input helps us greatly, and we take comments on our rules. Our average has been about 70-plus days overall. But we also get comments.
And I want to get into the
after
cost-benefit
comment
analysis, but my time has expired. With that, I'll recognize the ranking member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gensler. I'd like to give you time to give your answer to Mr. McHenry and explain to him exactly how you define securities and commodities. Please go right ahead.
So a security by Congress's will has about 30-plus terms, and one of those terms is an investment contract. And the Supreme Court has addressed this multiple times over the years, and we as a commission have addressed this in these 100-plus actions that the chair mentioned. I think there's 130 or so actions we've taken. And it's basically, if the public is putting their hard-earned funds with entrepreneurs, promoters, and anticipating a profit, there's a 4-part test. And it's really, it's a broad sweep. Thurgood Marshall said that Congress painted with a broad brush to protect the public. And the SEC is an agency you all set up years ago, is a disclosure-based agency. We're merit neutral, but we're not neutral to full, fair, and truthful disclosure in crypto or elsewhere. And that's really the core. And so it's is there a group of entrepreneurs in the middle that are working on that project, promoting that project, have a website that the public looks to? Do they have Twitter accounts and handles? Do they upgrade the software, and is the public sort of reading about them, anticipating a profit based? And in fact, is there somebody that's even visiting you and they're hiring lawyers and sending them in to, to talk to us and so forth? Is there something there that the public is anticipating a profit based upon those efforts?
Thank you very much. Chair Gensler, I'd like to ask a few questions about crypto. You've often suggested that we're witnessing mass noncompliance with our securities laws by crypto firms. However, crypto firms often suggest that their coins and activities are different and need a new statutory framework. Do you agree? And does the SEC have the authorities it needs to bring crypto issuers and intermediaries into compliance with the investor protection and market integrity framework built over the past 90 years?
Yes, I do believe that we have the authorities we need and the laws to protect the investors.
Would you say that one more time?
Yes, I do believe that we have the laws and we have the authorities to oversee the crypto intermediaries, the crypto exchange.
Are you
broker-dealer.
exercising that authority now?
Yes, we are.
Would you describe for this committee how you're doing that? I understand that you have engaged with a number of crypto firms. Is that correct?
We have. We talked to the crypto firms, some tokens to how they can register, but also these platforms. I've been around finance for over 40 years in one way or the other. I've never seen a field that's so non-compliant with laws written by Congress and affirmed over and over by the courts. But this is a largely unfortunate for the investing public, non-compliant field.
And then there was a little bit where he basically blamed crypto for the fall of Silicon Valley Bank. But I don't think the clip was actually that significant. I think these were the most important ones. And if you watched all the way to here, just say, let's go to the moon in the comment section down below. I want to see how many people actually watch this stuff to the end. I mean, 6 hours down to 30 minutes. Pretty good for a summary. So if you appreciated this, make sure you press that like button, and I'll see you guys again in another crypto video either later today or tomorrow, who knows. And again, if you haven't yet, I'll leave a couple cool links down below that I personally use, like OKX, and that's about it.